I told my coworker's wife that he's bragging at work about cheating on her with her younger sister. I've always thought of myself as someone who minds my own business. Especially at work, I try to stay out of drama, do my job, and go home. I work at a restaurant where people come and go all the time. So new hires don't really faze me. But this new guy, he's different. It didn't take long for him to start making everyone uncomfortable. He came in a couple of months ago. And ever since, he's been spouting off some of the most obnoxious stuff I've ever heard. I overheard him bragging about cheating on his wife. That, in itself, was bad enough. But then he started going on and on about how easy it was. He'd laugh about how his wife is so naive. How he's been doing it for years. Using work as a cover. It's disgusting the way he talks. Like cheating on his wife is some kind of game. And he's winning because she's clueless. At first, I told myself it was none of my business. I've never been the type to get involved in other people's personal lives. And I didn't know this guy well. But it just kept getting worse. Every time he'd open his mouth, it was something more horrifying. Then one day, he took it a step further. He let it slip that one of the people he's cheating with is his wife's younger sister. I nearly dropped what I was holding when I heard that. His wife's sister? I couldn't believe it. He was sitting there in the break room, talking about it like it was no big deal. He said it all casual. Like it's just a normal thing to cheat on your wife with her sibling. But that wasn't even the worst part. What made my stomach really turn was when he mentioned that the younger sister is still in high school. That's when everything changed for me. I couldn't just sit back and listen anymore. There's something deeply wrong with that. I tried to talk to one of my other coworkers about it, hoping to get some advice on what to do. But nobody really wanted to get involved. It's like everyone's just here to do their job and leave, not wanting to rock the boat. Even my partner, when I brought it up at home, told me I should stay out of it. He said, "It's not your business. Don't get mixed up in it. You barely know this guy." But how could I not get mixed up in it? This guy was talking about cheating with a high schooler. I know I don't work closely with him. But that doesn't mean I should just ignore what's happening. I couldn't help but feel grossed out. Every time I saw him laughing and joking around like nothing was wrong. The thing is, I was able to find his wife's contact information pretty easily. Turns out she works for the state. Which made me think even more that this whole situation could blow up if it ever went public. I thought about how I would feel if I were in her shoes. Totally in the dark, while my husband not only cheated but did it with my own sister. Who's underage? How could I not tell her? How could I live with myself knowing that she's being lied to? Being made a fool of, while this guy runs around doing whatever he wants? I started to feel really conflicted. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore, it was about the fact that this younger sister is still in high school. I'm pretty sure that's not even legal in our state. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but this situation just screams wrong on every level. Shouldn't someone do something about that? But the more I thought about it, the more complicated it got. If I told his wife, would that blow everything up? Would she believe me? What if it ruins her life and her relationship with her family? And she still doesn't believe me? What if it starts a whole chain of events that I didn't mean to cause? Maybe I'd be making it worse. And then there's the fact that this guy works with me. I didn't even want to think about the fallout at work if he found out I was the one who told her. What if he came after me? Every time I thought I had a plan, I'd second guess myself. I talked to my partner about it again, and he was still against me saying anything. He said it's not worth it. That I'd be stirring up a mess for no reason. That I didn't really know what was going on between them. But every time I went to work, I saw this guy laughing and joking around like nothing was wrong. And it made me sick. It just didn't sit right with me. Knowing what I knew, I started having trouble sleeping, tossing and turning, thinking about what was going on. I couldn't get it out of my head. Every time I'd hear about some guy on the news getting caught for doing something like this, I'd think about him, sitting there in our break room, laughing about how easy it was to cheat. Eventually, I decided I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I knew it was risky. And I knew it could blow up in my face. But I just couldn't let this guy get away with it. I had to do something. Even if it wasn't my place. I couldn't just sit there and ignore it. So, I took a deep breath and reached out to his wife. I didn't want to come off as accusatory. But I also didn't want to sugarcoat it. I told her everything I'd overheard at work. How he'd been bragging about cheating on her, using work as a cover, and how he mentioned her younger sister. I didn't know how she would react or if she'd even believe me. But I felt like she deserved to know. Now, I'm just waiting to see what happens. Waiting to see if this blows up in my face. Part of me still wonders if I did the right thing. Did I overstep? Should I have kept my mouth shut? My partner still thinks I made a mistake. But I just couldn't live with myself if I didn't say something. So now I'm left wondering if I made the right call or if I've just made things worse for everyone involved. I don't know what's going to happen next. But I guess all I can do is wait and see.
I chose my mother after she cheated on my father. Growing up, I never really understood what was happening when my parents' marriage fell apart. I was only 7 when my dad discovered my mom had been having an affair. It was like a bomb went off in our family. And everything changed overnight. One day, things felt normal, whatever normal was for us, and the next. My dad was gone. He moved out immediately, leaving me with my mom and a lot of questions I didn't know how to ask. I'll never forget the way he looked at me during that time. When he found out about the affair, the first thing he did was demand a paternity test. As if he couldn't trust that I was even his son. For weeks, before we got the test results back, he barely spoke to me. He wouldn't look at me the same way. And I remember how cold he was. Like I was a stranger. I was only a kid. And I didn't really understand what was going on. But I knew that something had changed between us. And it was like losing him, too. When the results came back and showed that I was his biological son, he tried to go back to normal. But it wasn't that simple. It wasn't like I could just forget how he acted during that time. And honestly, I don't think I ever fully forgave him for treating me like I wasn't his kid. He tried to make up for it. But something had broken between us. I always felt like I wasn't really a priority to him. And the way he acted during those few weeks just confirmed it. My mom, on the other hand, was doing everything she could to make it up to me. She had made a huge mistake. I get that. But she owned it. She was trying. At least, after the divorce, she got half of everything. Including the house. Which only made my dad angrier. He thought she got off easy. Like she didn't really suffer any consequences for cheating on him. She remarried her affair partner. And that just seemed to make things worse between her and my dad. But for me, life with my mom and stepdad wasn't bad. In fact, it was a lot better than with my dad. After the divorce, my parents split custody, but I never liked spending time with my dad. He was always angry and bitter. Especially when it came to my mom. He'd constantly ask me questions about her and my stepdad. Like if I ever saw him around the house before the divorce or if they were talking badly about him behind his back. I never had anything to tell him because they never talked about him in front of me. But he didn't seem to believe me. I hated those conversations. Every time I went to his house, I felt like I was being interrogated. It wasn't a fun place to be. At my mom's house, it was different. My mom and stepdad made an effort to include me in everything. My stepdad treated me well. And even though he wasn't my real dad, he acted like a father should. He got to know me, asked about my interests, and spent time with me. My dad, on the other hand, didn't even know the basics about me. He didn't know who my friends were, what I liked to do, or even who my teachers were at school. He never took the time to get to know me as a person. When my dad remarried, I thought maybe things would change. But they didn't. If anything, it made things worse. His new wife had kids from a previous marriage. And my dad made way more of an effort with them than he ever did with me. He'd cook their favorite meals, buy them presents, and go out of his way to spend time with them. Meanwhile, I was just kind of there, watching him be the father to them that he never was to me. It hurt, seeing him put in all this effort with them when he couldn't even remember the name of my best friend. Someone I'd been friends with for almost a decade. The worst part was the vacations. My dad and his new family would go on these trips to fun places like Disney World. But they always planned them during the weeks I was supposed to be with my mom. It was like they didn't want me around. Or like I didn't matter enough to be included. I'd watch them pack up and get ready to leave, knowing I wasn't invited. And it stung every single time. At my mom's house, it was different. My stepdad and half-siblings treated me like part of the family. Even when it would have been easier for them to exclude me. They always made sure I felt included. They'd go out of their way to make sure I was part of things. Whether it was a family outing or just dinner at home. It felt like home. And I never got that feeling when I was with my dad. A couple of months ago, my mom and stepdad decided to move across the country. It wasn't an easy decision, but they wanted a fresh start. And they asked me if I wanted to come with them. I didn't have to think about it for long. I wanted to go with them. But that meant changing the custody arrangement with my dad, which led us to court. When we went to court, the judge let me decide where I wanted to live. I chose to live with my mom, which apparently shocked my dad. He acted like he didn't understand why I would choose her. But I thought it was obvious. He sent me a bunch of angry texts afterward, calling my mom horrible names and accusing her of brainwashing me. He said I was choosing the person who ruined our family, and that I was betraying him. The thing is, I don't see it that way. My mom made a mistake. Yeah, but she didn't ruin our family. My dad was never really part of my life in the way he should have been. Even before the divorce, he was barely around, and when he was, he didn't pay attention to me. I wasn't his priority, and I never felt like I mattered to him the way I should have. So, for me, the divorce didn't destroy anything. It just made official what had already been broken. My friends have been telling me that I should have chosen my dad. That my mom doesn't deserve to have me in her life after what she did. They say it was her choices that ruined the family, and that I'm punishing my dad for something that wasn't his fault. But I don't see it that way. My dad may not have been the one who cheated, but he's the one who was never there for me. He's the one who prioritized his new family over me. He's the one who never made an effort to get to know me, to spend time with me, or to include me in his life. Choosing my mom wasn't about her cheating on my dad. It was about who was there for me, who made me feel like I was part of a family, who made an effort to include me in their life. My mom may have made mistakes, but she was always there for me. My dad, on the other hand, wasn't. So, am I the asshole for choosing my mom? I don't think so. I chose the parent who made me feel like I mattered, who made me feel loved, and who made an effort to be a part of my life. And I'm not going to apologize for that.